Welcome to EED.
Thank you.
Thank you for agreeing to answer a few questions. So first question, how have you learned about the European Endowment for Democracy?
Well, from the personal contacts here in Brussels, when this was being set up, we were told by some of our friends, as well as when the presentations were made. I think it made quite a few headlines. So it was basically from the media as well as from the personal contacts that this was being set up. And then once it was set up, I think everybody learned about it.
Yes, very good. And looking at your initiative that has been funded by the European Endowment for Democracy, how would you just summarize it in 3 sentences and focus a little bit on how it's helping citizens in your country?
Well, 3 sentences.
Or 4.
Okay, well, politicians like to lie. We try to expose them when they lie. And then we tell the public whether what was said was truth or lie. So that's very, very briefly what it is. But we don't only focus on the lies, obviously. We also do, we just give the information to the public. We look at the politician statements, we analyze them, and then we tell the public whether it was true, mostly true, half true, mostly false, or an utter lie. So that's basically what we do.
Okay. And how did you come up with the idea to start this initiative?
Well, we had this idea for quite a while, before 2012. There are similar initiatives across the world, in the United States, in the UK, in Europe, in some of the countries, but not in our part of the world. And we always have this idea. In the Georgian domestic public discourse, you hear a lot of false statements by the politicians. And so we always had this idea that it would be nice if there was a group who would say, this is lie, or this is right. And then we had this idea, so once, at a certain point, we said, okay, let's do it ourselves. So, and then EED support came in, so we managed to make it happen, and I think it has been quite successful so far. It has affected the discourse, I would say, rather significantly.
Mm-hmm. Could you give an example of a concrete case of a specific type of information that you discovered was being incorrectly used?
I can tell you a few things. In the last weeks only, there have been the major 9 o'clock news has dedicated about 10-minute long, let's say, reportage to the statistics that Fact Check has uncovered. For instance, about the increasing price of the medications in Georgia in the last year. And not only our statistics, the statistics we requested, but also our analysts were interviewed, and the whole discourse was about the information that we made available. The same was about the crime rates in Georgia, but in general, we have been doing a number of research on the economy, how economy has been doing, what has been the growth, and what are the numbers that the politicians are saying, what do they actually mean for the public. We've even produced the fact check videos, about 2-minute long videos on the important subjects like the, let's say, pollution in one of the regions, or like the statistics about crime, about employment. And the idea is to make the information easily accessible and understandable for the people.
Mm-hmm. How are people reacting to the initiative? What feedback have you received from them?
Well, in several months we managed to get about 20,000 likes on the Facebook. That's already a good indicator. But other than that, we are on a daily contact with the politicians. We get the calls to our office from the sometimes angry members of parliament who don't like the way we have assessed what they say. I get the phone calls also from politicians where they tell us what I said. Actually, it was not exactly how you rated it, but we try to stick with the facts, and they need to argue with the facts, not with us who write the articles. In general, I think the best assessment of our work is that all political parties are starting to hate us, and I think that's the best kind of feedback that we can get. But in general, we've had the interviews with the ministers, the TV stations have been citing us very often. In the regional media, fact check news have been taken up, sometimes even without authorization, but they have been republishing them. But that's fine, because that shows that we have tried to make some impact. And the biggest impact is when on one of the TV shows, the member of parliament is giving a number and then saying, well, yes, but this number could be wrong. I just don't want to be fact-checked by the fact-check, so I'm just saying approximately that this is it.
And the last 2 more challenging questions.
Yeah.
What would you describe as the biggest hurdle or obstacle to democracy in your country? What is the most important thing to fight for?
There are quite a few. I think one important thing that is still the freedom of media, even though the media has become freer. Having this balanced, fact-based discourse is still something that the environment that it has not been achieved in Georgia. Even though the media is quite diverse, still this is the problem. Second one would be there's still not a perfect environment for the political, let's say, opposition. Opposition is sometimes persecuted. There are problems with the expression of the political positions, so that needs to be changed probably in the future. And the third one would still be the rights of the minorities, whether these are the religious, sexual, or the other minorities, where unfortunately in the recent years we've seen rather deterioration of the situation. But by and large, I still believe that Georgia is on a fundamentally right track towards democracy, especially compared to the countries in the region.
And the last question, democracy. It's a word that's used over and over. Some people know what they mean by it when they use it, some people don't. What does democracy mean to you?
Well, it's one of those things where when you see it, you know whether it's the one or not, but it's hard to describe. For me, democracy is when you have a pluralism in the society, when the people have a right to express themselves, they can enjoy their fundamental rights. Most of all, they have a right to change the government when they are displeased with its actions. And most importantly, there is an equal playing field on the political arena. And in addition, obviously, that the rights of the minorities, of the certain groups are respected. It's obviously a very wide definition, and not an exhaustive one as well. But all these things have to be present for one to say that there is a democracy. That's why I think Georgia is a democracy. We've gone through a major test, which was the change of the government. We still have some homework to do, obviously, but it is on the right track.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Dr. Kapanadze.
Thank you.
And nice seeing you here in Brussels.
Thanks.